Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from the Corn Productions Deep Dive TV podcast with my co-host Stacie, here to talk about Under the Dome, Season 2, Episode 2, titled Infestation. The episode's description reads as follows. As the news of Angie's murder spreads, Rebecca warns Big Jim of a caterpillar infestation that could infect the town's remaining crops. The episode was written by Kelly Soldiers and Brian Peterson, both were writers and producers on Smallville. And given the writing of this episode that tracks, I'm going to be talking a little bit about that in a little bit later. It's based on a book by Stephen King. The episode is directed by Ernest K. Dickerson. Only effort on the series, but has 75 credits as a director, including episodes of House of Cards, 2 episodes of Godfather of Harlem. That's the other series that's on MGM Plus other than From. And 11 episodes of The Walking Dead. He has quite a prolific directing career. It's quite fascinating, given the fact that he also directed this. I actually don't think that the problem of this episode comes down to directing. I don't think that's the case. I definitely think it comes down to the writing. But again, we'll talk more about that later. The episode originally aired on July 7th, 2014. Before going any further, I'll tell you a couple things. One, this is not a podcast. So if you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go check it out and then come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you're listening on the platforms this podcast is now available on, please follow. And feel free to check out our YouTube channel, Corn Productions, where additional content can be discovered. If you're already on our YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe to the channel. All right, so Stacie, your thoughts on this week's episode?
All right, it's not as whiplashy as episode 201 was. We do stay a little more focused.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I don't love the story.
I think there's good ideas here. I don't think they're executed in any particular kind of good way. There is a lot of problems here. I brought up the 2 writers, Kelly Soldiers and Brian Peterson. I happened to look at the episodes that they were responsible for on Smallville.
Okay.
There's a lot of dreck there. I mean, there are the occasional good episodes. I mean, that was a Smallville problem in general, where there was a lot of filler episodes in between the really good episodes. The jump to conclusion thing that I was talking about last season and last episode, it's about a billion times worse in this episode. And there's a lot of characters acting way out of characters from what we saw them in season 1, rather. And I think these 2 writers, some of the episodes in Smallville, the jump to conclusion stuff, yeah, that show was also guilty of that as well. I'm actually very curious how I would feel upon rewatching that series, because, with a more discerning eye that I have now, deep diving into things, I'm not sure that I could actually watch that series anymore. But yeah, there's entire scenes where I'm like, in this episode, where I'm like, what the hell is anybody talking about here? This doesn't make any sense.
Oh, it's one of those weeks for us.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's not as bad as the episode I just finished about an hour and a half yelling about in Quantum Leap. But this is still an objectively bad episode, and I think it comes down to the writing.
I think they're all like that going forward.
Pretty much. Yeah, I think we're in for a rough ride. But yeah, so that's my thoughts.
Okay. One thing I was wrong last week when I said that the introduction said it's been 3 weeks. It actually says 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
And I went back and listened last week too, and that is consistent. Gotcha. I had it wrong. It's Barbie's voice in the intro, and he's saying 2 weeks ago an impenetrable dome came down. So
gotcha. Season
1 took place over 2 weeks, and we are now at the beginning of week 3.
Yeah,
is where this season is falling.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't get any new characters this episode, so it is still going to be a wait before we get the next one, which I thought he was introduced early, but I guess I was wrong.
If you're talking about the one I think you're talking about, I'm pretty sure
Lyle. I remembered his name this week.
He's introduced next week. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's a distinction between like the first half of season 2 and the second half of season 2, and in the second half of season 2, where we meet like a bunch of other new characters.
Yes. I don't think a lot of those characters stick around beyond the season though. Well, actually, there was a couple
of them do.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the world's gonna get bigger by the second half of the season, right? But Lyle, I do know I put him in this first half of the season.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's in the next episode because it wasn't at silly rain episode that he first appeared, and I'm pretty sure that's the next one.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know where we are in the timeline in this season.
I mean,
I was actually surprised that this was the next episode. I saw the title and I was like, oh, already? Because in my head, like, this was a beat later, the whole infestation thing, because it's like, oh, already we're jumping in and Rebecca's running the town.
And Rebecca,
when we met her yesterday.
Rebecca is insane. She's crazy. Yeah. Okay. So anything else to say before diving in?
We don't have Carolyn in this episode.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And her absence was notable to me because where the frick is she?
Right. Where is she sleeping?
I understand Aisha Hines was probably busy doing other projects.
She had a pretty full boat.
But in season 1, we kind of explained her absence.
Yeah.
Like she was grieving her wife's death and whatever. But then she came back. She was very much in the end of the last episode. They're all going to go stay at Big Jim's house.
Yeah.
And then there's no mention of her this episode.
She's actually not in that many episodes.
Like, where is she sleeping?
Right.
Why is she not at the funeral with her daughter? Where is this woman at?
Right. Yes.
Like, give us a line, at least, explaining that she's sleeping or something.
Right.
Let's go for it.
All right. So we see Mystery Girl in the woods in her nightgown, clearly scared. She slips down the hill, and a monarch butterfly lands in her hand. The next morning, Barbie and Julia are in bed exchanging pillow talk. They notice a bunch of butterflies out of the window, and she laughs like it's beautiful. Personally, I kind of find it creepy.
It was very creepy. She goes to the window, and she puts her hand against the window, and then they, like, concentrate towards her hand. Right. Because remember, she's the monarch.
Yes. So we're still kind of playing with that.
We are, I guess, because... Butterflies are in this episode a lot, and I don't see anything nice about them.
Right. So Nori and Joe wake up in Big Jim's house downstairs, sleeping on the couch. Angie isn't there, which Joe notes. Why would she be sleeping here at all, is my question.
Right, because let's remember, Angie has her own apartment.
And she was pretty hostile to Jim in the first place.
So Angie had her own apartment.
Yeah.
On Dome Day, she was living in her own apartment. She was not living in her parents' house.
Right.
She moved back in there to hang out with Joe.
Right.
But now that house has fallen, why would she not go to her apartment?
Right.
And why wouldn't Joe go with her?
Exactly. I mean, we discussed that ad nauseum last week, too. So Jim is acting pleasant. He's cooking breakfast. He believes more in the dome and wants to hear all about the dome. And the kids are clearly not sold on this. They're, like, giving, like, concerned looks and, like, weirded out by this. Phil calls about some minor thing.
Something about roof damage. And Jim's like, all right, I'm going to go help.
And he seems already kind of annoyed by Phil. But Phil actually does a reasonable impersonation of a cop in this episode.
He's stepped up and he is no longer a radio DJ. He is the sheriff now.
Right.
He has all the skills. He's got forensic knowledge.
Yes,
He's a cop now.
Right. So Rebecca notices caterpillars in the garden as she's walking out of her house. Jim goes...
And we have her science worry face.
Right. Ooh.
Yeah.
Jim goes and bothers Junior in his cell, saying...
Junior didn't sleep in the house last night.
Yeah.
He's sleeping in the jail cell because he doesn't want to be around, which brings back the question of where's Carolyn supposed to be sleeping?
Right.
Because I'm presuming they only have 2 bedrooms in their house, Jim's bedroom and Junior's bedroom, and Jim wants to know why Junior's not in his bedroom.
Right. Didn't he also kick him out last season?
He did, and was like, never come back again.
Right.
But he wants to know why he's not in his bedroom. And then the kids were sleeping in the living room. Where was Carolyn supposed to be sleeping?
Maybe she was sleeping in Junior's room?
Maybe they have a 3rd bedroom?
Maybe.
But you'd think she'd want her daughter with her and not in the living room with her boyfriend. I don't know.
So Jim sends Junior over to the school to open up for Rebecca because she's going to start teaching there. When was that decided?
Overnight.
Okay.
And let's also remember, Jim and Rebecca were supposed to have breakfast together to talk about scary science stuff.
Right.
Which we just didn't do.
Right.
Because he had breakfast with the kids and then went to do, police stuff. But he's like, yeah, Rebecca's going to start classes again. What about the rest of the teachers?
Right.
It would more be like, oh, we're going to start school again.
Right.
Not Rebecca Pine decided she's going to teach classes.
That is a good point. Like, there has to be at least some of the teachers that teach at this school around. Right.
It's either we're opening school or school is closed.
Right.
Not Rebecca Pine decided.
Right.
Like, who is this woman?
Right. So Junior's attitude is hostile, but nevertheless he agrees to do it. for the town, not for Big Jim.
Yeah, so this whole thing's just a really weird, convenient reason for somebody to go to the school.
It's a really convenient reason for Junior to go to the school.
And it's silly. Like,
Yes.
why would he need to open the school?
Right.
Does she not have keys to the school?
Right.
Why does Junior have keys to the school?
Yeah, all that is very good questions.
The police do not run the school.
No. So he goes to the school, and he stumbles upon the dead body of Angie.
Well, before that, a butterfly comes, cuts him in the face,
Right.
which is, he's bleeding.
Right.
That was weird.
Yes.
I rewound that scene a couple times. I'm like, what did I just witness? The butterfly came and cut his face. Okay. And then he follows the butterfly.
Yeah.
The butterfly is what leads him to finding Angie's body.
Right.
He does this with his gun pointed.
Yes.
You're following you needed to pull your gun to follow a butterfly through the hallway of the high school?
I guess so.
Why are you drawing your gun?
I think he sees blood or something, doesn't he?
The blood came from his own face because the butterfly cut him.
Okay. So...
But he finds Angie's body, which is covered in like hundreds of butterflies.
Which is really creepy. All qualms aside, and I have plenty of them, particularly related to Junior and his relationship with Angie, go back and watch season 1. I covered it plenty there. The podcast, not the episodes, though.
Do both.
Yes, of course.
Both.
But yeah, all qualms aside, this scene is done well in the sense that it's very creepy, and you know, Alexandra Koch sells Junior's grief very well.
Right. He sees her and he bends down, holds her hand, and he cries.
And
that's realistic. That
Right.
is how Junior would react, because he is in love with Angie.
Well,
even though he's psycho and he kidnapped her and all that,
Right.
he is in love with her.
well, he thinks he is.
He's in what he thinks is love.
Right,
Yes. He has some bond to this girl.
Right.
And he is grieving her death.
And credits. And by the way, we don't actually see Britt Robertson as Angie in this episode.
Yeah, she's not credited in this episode at all. We see the body plenty, but we never see her face.
Right, yep. So when we come back to the credits, we're at the Sweetbriars Rose. So once again, you're wrong about never seeing that again.
But the person running it at the moment is Jim. Jim
Right.
is serving people coffee. I do want to point out that people have plates of food. Who's cooking the food?
And also, doesn't Jim have other things to be doing?
I thought he was with Phil dealing with
Right.
storm damage.
I guess not, but...
And, making plans to open the school.
Right.
That Rebecca decided, even though we know she's very busy with science stuff. So when,
Right.
Okay.
So Andrea and Jim talk. Jim is saying the good Lord saved them, but Andrea thinks it was Big Jim because he was about to sacrifice himself. Barbie and Julia come in.
Wasn't Andrea against Jim in season 1?
Vaguely.
Like, she's the one who called the cops in the first place about the propane.
Yeah, but when we saw her after that, like during when the dome went black, she was talking to Jim. Like she expected him to like have some uplifting words to say.
Oh, okay. So at this point, though, she's Jim's biggest cheerleader.
Right.
Throughout this episode.
Yes.
Is Andrea represents the town, and Big Jim is our savior.
Boy, is she going to come to regret that by season's end. So, yeah, Barbie and Julia come in. Jim is grateful to them. Rebecca,
And Jim serves them coffee.
Right, yes. Because that's what...
And their question, Jim and Andrea were like, hey, where's Angie? She never showed up to run,
for her ship.
To run the restaurant.
Right. So Rebecca comes in with a problem. The hungry caterpillars are eating everything.
She literally says that.
Yes. This conversation is interrupted by a bloody and in shock Junior who announces Angie is dead. Now, at this point, knowing the history that they all know, I guess most of these people don't know that he had her locked in a cell.
No, I think the only person who knew was Jim and then Joe and Nori.
Okay, so...
And they're not here.
And I guess Jim brings this up later, so this isn't really a problem. But yeah, basically, if I see this scene, I'm thinking that Junior is the one that killed her.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, he's covered in blood and disheveled, and he's like, she's dead.
Right. So Barbie, Jim, and Phil investigate. They notice a bloody footprint.
And I'm going to point out, all the butterflies are gone now.
Yes.
They're not just scattered. They're not there. They left.
Right.
They're not in the school anymore.
And then they note a bloody handprint on the locker, which is not subtle in any kind of way, but they kind of act like, ooh, look at this. You notice this?
Yeah, and they try opening it, but it's locked.
Right. Barbie asks Jim if this is where he points the finger at him. Jim says neither one of them would do something like this. Well, you know what? I'm not totally sure that's accurate,
so
Jim.
What Jim says is, you and I have both done things we're not proud of, but neither of us would do something like this.
No,
and
Jim
that
actually
just
would.
Stands. They both believe each other.
Right.
That they're not the killer.
Right. Well,
I have zero doubts that Jim would do this.
Yeah.
To save himself.
Right.
Self-preservation. And we know Angie was basically like, if I was on the gallows, I'd have killed you.
Right.
So the audience is led to totally think it could be Jim.
It absolutely could be.
But Barbie's just like, okay, cool.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. Neither of us would do this.
Right. Yeah, I'm not buying that from Barbie at all. This is kind of an out-of-character moment for Barbie, and it's not going to be the only one.
They're legit working together right now.
Right.
They're like, let's find the killer together.
Right. No, not buying it.
And then, like you said, Phil finds the bloody footprint, which becomes a big deal in this episode. I've got issues with this footprint.
I do as well.
And I actually went back and, I'm looking at the footprint. I went back to last episode to look at Melanie's feet. She's wearing ballet slippers. Okay?
Okay.
Those kind of shoes have flat bottoms.
Right.
They do not have...
They don't make the...
They don't have ridges.
Right.
This shoe print that we're shown in this scene is like a sneaker or a boot. It's got ridges. It's got a rubber sole that's making a pattern.
Yes.
That's not the type of shoe that we're shown that we end up later comparing it to.
Right. So Joe and Nori are in the woods. He saves her from some poison ivy, like it's a big deal.
Yeah, because they don't have poison ivy
Right.
in L.A.
They kiss. A bunch of dead butterflies fall from the sky, and Joe thinks this is okay. I don't know how. Like, this is pretty creepy ass to me.
Yeah, so he says their life cycle's done. That means they all laid new eggs, which, we're going to get to. That's a bad thing.
Right. He's like, and there's going to be a bunch more of them. Why is that okay with you, Joe? But anyway, all right. I would be pretty creeped out if there were that many butterflies.
There were like hundreds of dead butterfly corpses everywhere.
So they find Melanie, Mystery Girl, in the woods.
And yeah, she doesn't remember her name. She doesn't remember anything. And they're like, oh, well, come with us. We're going to help you.
Right. So we're at the school again. Junior is in shock.
Angie's body's being taken away.
Jim is trying to be a comfort to his son, and he asks to make sure his son is not the culprit. He's like...
So he thinks Junior did it.
And that's a perfectly logical thing for him to think.
It is a perfectly logical thing.
He lays out the case perfectly.
He's like, I know how much you love her, and it wouldn't be the first time that things turned ugly because of your love for her.
Right.
Like, he's like, I know you, kidnapped her and locked her in a bunker before. So it's not a stretch to think maybe, you killed her in a fit of passion.
Right. Junior turns it around on Jim, basically saying that, she was basically threatening to kill him.
Right. And, now you're trying to blame me.
Right.
Now, both of these viewpoints are perfectly logical.
Yes, they
As
actually
a
make
viewer,
sense.
if you suspect Jim is the killer, not at all ridiculous that he would try and blame his son. That's perfectly something he would do.
Yes.
And the same thing, if Junior was the killer, if you actually think he could have done it, of course he's going to blame his dad.
Right.
This is their relationship, and this is everything we know about them, is both of them are capable of something like this. We've seen both of them murder people in cold blood.
Yes. So, this scene actually makes complete sense. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. This was actually a well-done scene.
Yeah.
Joe and Nori arrive at the school. Barbie
and they have Melanie with them, so they're
Yes.
in the process of walking her to Jim's house, which they specifically say, we're staying with Big Jim, and you can come too.
Yeah. So Barbie walks in slow motion towards Joe, who's noticed the commotion at the school.
There's crime scene tape.
Yes.
There's a crowd gathered. Everybody's looking at Joe.
Right.
And he just kind of knows.
Right.
Now, I would say this is one of those instances where he shouldn't know, where we are jumping to conclusions, but also the way everybody's looking at him.
I'm kind of okay with it.
It reminded me of in From.
Yeah.
When Kenny found out about his mother.
Yes.
And for a moment I went, oh, is this a Jack Bender episode?
Right. Yep.
Because I was like, oh, did he direct both of these? Because it feels like the same scene almost.
Yes.
But no, he didn't direct this.
No, but stylistically it is very similar.
It's very similar.
Right.
Where it's like he just sees everybody looking at him and he suddenly knows, oh, it's my sister.
In Kenny's case, he was very much in denial during that scene in that episode. But yeah, it's very similar. And basically, Barbie walks towards him in slow motion to tell Joe the news. Joe says whoever did this is going to pay. Julia asks how Joe is doing.
And yeah, so behind the scenes, like, Barbie took the kids, and I couldn't figure out, are we at Jim's house right now? Are we at Julia's?
I was assuming this was Julia's house.
But because we brought the 3 kids somewhere.
Right.
Julia's there now.
Yes.
And Melanie's sleeping, because that's all she does.
Right. So yeah, she's worried he might be bottling things up. That doesn't jibe with what we last saw of Joe. He was pretty angry. That was not bottling up his emotions.
Also, Julia seems pretty broken up about Angie.
Yeah, I mean, they were kind of friends.
But they didn't even know each other before 2 weeks ago. But now she's kind of acting like this is her family.
Yeah, I see that.
Like, a lot of people have died. It's not just that somebody died.
So Julia explains who the sleeping girl is. Barbie says, basically, a girl's bloody footprint was found at the scene. Okay, first of all, it's a footprint.
It's a footprint.
How do you know this is a girl's shoe?
Exactly. We're told over and over it's a girl's shoe.
Right. Based on what exactly?
And that, also, we're jumping to conclusions that has to be Melanie.
Right. Well, yeah. That's my whole thing here. Is he instantly jumps to the possibility that she killed Angie. That's ludicrous. Based on what?
Right.
Is he's saying that?
Right.
So,
because she's a girl.
Right.
I mean, did we even look to see if it's Angie's own footprint?
Right.
But yeah, the fact that throughout the whole episode, we're like, it's a girl's bloody footprint.
And I will point out, this is completely out of character for Barbie. Barbie is not one to jump.
My note is, who in this town is trained in forensics that's telling us this is a girl's footprint?
Right. I mean, how exactly can you tell that?
I mean, you can't tell that anyways.
Right. A shoe is a shoe.
A shoe is a shoe, and anybody can be wearing a shoe.
Right.
But there could be, like, if this was an actual, like, medical, detective, there's forensics teams, they'd give us information about, like, the shoe size.
Right. And,
maybe something about the weight of the person we can tell by it or something.
Yeah.
But, no, we're just like, it's a girl.
Right. So, Julia thinks this is ridiculous, and it is, because Barbie has no basis for this conclusion whatsoever.
Yeah, even if it is a girl, why do we think it's Melanie?
Right.
Like, we don't know anything about her other than she was just found in the woods.
Right.
They don't know she was at the school. We know that.
Yes.
But they don't know that.
Right, exactly. So Barbie notices a fire, and it turns out it's because Rebecca is burning the fields. Someone questions her, hey, what are you doing?
This is Farmer Killian.
Yeah.
He's played by Matt McHugh. This is the only episode we see him in. He was in one episode of The Detour, which is a Natalie Z series.
Yes.
And one episode of Secrets and Lies.
So she's like, I'm doing what I have to. Okay. She didn't clear this plan with anyone. She didn't talk to Jim before.
No, this is Farmer Killian's land, and he's like, why are you burning my field?
Right, so she's just going to go arbitrarily just start burning field. I know there's
by herself.
I know there's caterpillars here, but this shouldn't be a discussion with people.
Right, like maybe get help.
Right. And by the way, there's no fire department.
Right.
So,
and this looked like a pretty big fire because of, Barbie and Julia seeing it.
Right. So we see Joe looking at a snow globe. Nori.
Okay, and I have a problem with the snow globe.
Yeah.
So this is the LA snow globe. It's the
one she broke.
No, she didn't break it.
Okay.
Nori stopped Angie from breaking that one. It's the one that was saved.
Okay.
But wasn't it in the house that fell down?
Oh.
Why do they have it on their possession at I still don't know if we're in Jim's house or Julia's house, because it feels like we're in Julia's house, but they're about to say, is the killer in this house? And Joe thinks she means Jim.
Right. So, all right.
Yeah. But yeah, where did the snow globe come from?
Maybe they went and got it.
Was Nori carrying it on her person this whole time?
Maybe.
Does she have, some video game backpack?
Maybe.
That lives, with that knife that Sam gave?
You just kind of pull things out and, So Nori ends up comforting him. And at first, he's kind of giving her attitude, kind of similar to how Nori was reacting to him when her mother died. And then Nori suggests that the person who murdered Angie is Melanie, the mystery girl.
Well, first she says is in this house. Joe thinks she means Jim. Now, here's something interesting Joe does.
Yeah.
He gives Jim an alibi.
Right.
He immediately says, it's not Jim because I saw Jim sleeping last night.
Right.
Which, back to the whole where are people sleeping business, Joe says, I went downstairs during the night to get a snack or a drink or whatever he said.
Which is
and
where...
Jim was asleep on the couch.
Isn't that where they were sleeping?
They were sleeping on the living room couch.
So...
I'm going to presume Jim was sleeping in his bedroom.
Right.
And even if he had fallen asleep on the couches are occupied by the two kids, and then there was Joe was on the floor, Angie was on a couch, or no, Angie was not on a couch. Nori was on a couch, there was a couch that was reserved for Angie that she didn't use, and Joe was on the floor. The kids are camped in the living room.
Yes.
So did he go downstairs to some basement to get a snack and find Jim on a couch?
Was it in the fallout shelter that he went to?
He was like, I went downstairs I saw Jim asleep on the couch.
Right.
So that is no, but also you don't know what time Angie died.
Right.
That takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because you saw Jim asleep at some point during the night isn't a valid alibi.
Right.
You know Jim.
Yes.
You should be suspecting him.
Right.
But no, we just gave him a clear alibi.
Right.
And he didn't do it.
Right.
Because I saw him last night.
But Nori doesn't think this anyway.
Right.
She thinks Melanie is responsible for this.
Right.
Okay.
Why?
Barbie arriving at this conclusion was ludicrous based on nothing.
Based on a shoe print.
Nori arriving at the same exact conclusion.
She doesn't even know about the shoe print.
Right.
Or does she?
Based on nothing is just another level of absurd. They're both arriving.
Oh, no, she does bring up the shoe print.
Right.
So this girl's shoe print is the whole basis.
Right.
That we don't know why we know it's a girl's shoe print.
Right.
But everybody's assuming it's Melanie's.
Right. It's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And also, we're going to soon, take her shoe because she's sleeping and we're going to go compare it. Shouldn't it still have the blood on it if it was her footprint?
You would think so, unless she washed it for some reason. But even
While
that...
she was running in the woods?
I guess. So, Melanie confesses to Julie that she actually witnessed the murder.
Yeah, so she's telling Julia,
Right.
yes, I was there.
Right.
And that's kind of telling us, yes, it is her footprint.
Right, even though it couldn't possibly be. And she basically says that she saw a man. So Rebecca explains the situation about why she's burning a field, and she should have already done this. Mm-hmm. She should have already talked to Jim about what she's doing.
Because weren't
here.
they supposed to
Right,
already have
right.
this conversation? Like, she did. She went to Jim and said, hey, caterpillars.
Right.
And then what happened after that? He ignored her, so she went and started
burning
fire.
down fields. And she wants to burn everything along a certain...
She wants to burn 50% of the crops. So basically, she says they have 12-hour window. The caterpillars, there's eggs.
Right.
She's holding up a stick or whatever that's covered in caterpillar eggs. And she says once these eggs hatch, they're going to eat our entire food supply. That's how bad this is.
So I'm going to say for a smart person and a scientist, she's pretty damn reckless.
Yeah, so she wants to burn 50% of the fields, and that should save the other 50%.
Okay. So Jim indulges in his Messiah complex. And Rebecca asks, what is he talking about? And Barbie's in the scene, by the way. And Barbie responds with himself, per usual. And I thought that line was pretty funny.
Yeah, so Jim thinks this is another test.
Yeah.
But they come to the conclusion that burning half of their food supply is probably not the best solution.
That's a pretty good conclusion.
We're asked about pesticides.
Right.
Can't we just kill the caterpillars
Yes.
without killing the food?
That's what Jim is suggesting.
But Rebecca's like, we don't have enough time. We can't cover enough ground before the eggs hatch.
How long does it take?
We have 12 hours.
Yeah.
How does it take longer to spray the pesticide
Yeah.
than it does to spray the fire?
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, yes, fire is going to spread, but still you have to go to every field and do this. And also, why don't we get the entire town to help?
Right.
If we take all of the people, hundreds of people,
Yes.
and have them go to all the separate fields, why can't we just spray the frickin' pesticides normally with people?
Right. Yeah. Yep. Anyway, Julia and Sam. Okay, this scene is just total nonsense. It's not in any way a natural conversation.
Why is she even going there?
Right. Well, she's going there to tell him about the mystery girl.
Yeah, that she found her, but why?
Right.
Why do we need to go tell Sam?
Right. Oh, I mean, phone call. Like, I'm sure they have each other's numbers by now, right?
Does he have a number?
Probably not. But either way, it's not really a natural conversation. It's just them flinging words at each other and just talking about random things.
Okay, also, I mean, knowing where this story goes, I have problems with this.
Yes.
Like, why is Sam even giving her as much information as he's giving her?
Yes.
He's like, look, this is my sister's journal.
Right.
And here's a drawing of Melanie, or of the mystery girl.
Right.
From 20 years ago. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Well, why, what's his motivation to let her in on that?
Right. I mean, maybe he wants to sleep with her, and I think there's some insinuation that he actually does.
Okay,
but
where I didn't get it last week, there definitely is here where he's like, but what about you and me?
Right, the connection.
And it's like, what about you? You met yesterday because, she was trying to save some girl from dying.
It's like a totally random line that...
Yeah.
None of this scene makes any sense. Like, she finds out that Sam is the brother-in-law of Big Jim.
Right, so this is where she first puts that together.
Right.
Because he's talking about someone he, once could have helped.
Right.
And she's like, oh, you're talking about your sister who killed herself. And then she goes, wait a minute, Big Jim's wife killed herself. Right. You're Big Jim's brother-in-law? Oh, no, I can't talk to you.
Yeah. Again, she's like, well, what happens when blood starts to mean something? Like, what is anybody even talking about in this scene? It makes no sense. But anyway. And again, this was very, very reminiscent of Smallville writing at times. Like, there's rapid-fire dialogue, and none of it makes any sense, but it's, moving at a quick pace, so you're pretty much ignoring the fact that it doesn't make any sense. You get to your conclusion, and that was the point of the scene. Right. In that case, the drawing was the point of the scene.
The point was to tell us that Pauline's the one who drew this, and she drew it 20 years ago.
Right.
That was the point.
But how we get here makes zero sense.
And the fact that he would tell anybody that makes zero sense.
Right, yeah. So Jim's idea is to use a plane to deliver the pesticides.
And this belonged to the dude that crashed his plane on Dome Day in Joe's yard.
Okay. So Sam and Julia show up at the morgue where Junior is keeping the body company. And I think that's kind of like a Jewish tradition, though I don't think that's what he's doing here. But Junior and Sam talk. Junior brings up seeing his mother again and goes back to being blackout drunk. Junior wonders if he could love someone so much and hurt them. And Sam's like, I don't think you could hurt someone. You could never hurt somebody that you love so violently, which is a weird line in itself. But, like, we're basically going around in circles. Junior kind of insinuates that he think it might be himself who did it. But then he goes...
I don't know that he thinks that yet. I think they're telling us that. Yeah. They want us to be like, oh, you lost your memory that night?
Right, but he's also saying, like, oh, I wonder if I could, like, I could hurt her and, like, blackout drunk. He brings up the idea, but only to reject it. But that's not how normal people talk.
Well, these aren't normal people, though.
I mean, I guess you're right. But...
We know everyone in this family is flipping crazy.
Right, yeah. Yes. But, Sam does bring up the fact that, getting drunk is not a good way to deal with your problems.
So they have this whole discussion about alcoholism because this is Sam's vice and he doesn't want his nephew to, turn out like him, yada, yada. Yeah,
this is another kind of scene of some bad writing, though it's a little bit more coherent than the other
But the end result is Junior implicates Jim and it's like, my dad killed her, of course.
Right. Yeah. So Barbie enlists help from Rebecca to get Big Jim not to fly the plane.
Right, so Jim wants to do the plane himself. Yeah. Barbie is like, it's dangerous. I'm a better pilot.
Right.
Let me do it.
So they walk, like, away from the plane, and Rebecca talks to him, tries to talk to him out of flying the plane. And at first I thought this was a ruse on Rebecca's part. I thought this was part of the plan to get Barbie into the plane to start flying it, but she seems as surprised as anyone when he starts flying.
Yeah, Barbie
away.
just flies away without the plan. By the way,
right? Yeah,
he's going to depend on the fact that she's going to give him the plan later over the radio. That seemed a little reckless.
So Joe and Nori go to Phil to accuse Melanie based off nothing.
They're like, "Here's her shoe. Let's match it."
Right.
And they don't show us that, but apparently it's a match.
Ah, okay.
Based on their forensic know-how. That's a match.
Right. So Barbie's flight continues. Bill arrests Mystery Girl. Julia argues against this, and Bill is all... she ends up telling him the story about how, yes, she was
she was there, but she didn't kill her.
And Bill's all like, when were you going to tell the police about this? This is terrible acting.
Yeah, because maybe there aren't any police.
Right,
How about
yeah,
that?
yes. But,
because you and Junior are the frickin' police. That's why she didn't go to the police.
But Nicholas Strong's delivery of these lines here, just made me laugh because it's really, really bad. But he's like, you're lucky you're not in a cell too. But yeah, anyway. So Junior's technically part of the police, but I don't see him doing any of his job.
No, but
anymore.
He's wearing the police uniform at this point.
Yeah.
Does he continue to wear it?
I'm pretty sure he
does.
Like
the whole time?
Until season 3, I'm pretty sure he continues to wear the police uniform. Right up into the finale of season 2, I remember him wearing that uniform.
Yeah, okay.
So Joe, Nori tell Junior that it was... so
Junior's searching... through bookshelves in his house, looking for evidence that Jim killed Angie.
Right.
I'm not sure what he thinks he's going to find.
Ooh, maybe the secret book that details his plan to kill Angie.
Yeah.
But, okay, so they come in, and they're basically like, it wasn't Big Jim, it was the girl.
It was
Once
the girl!
Again, based off nothing.
Based on the fact that she admitted she was there and her shoe print was there.
And Junior immediately buys this. And
he flips the switch so fast, and goes from it's my dad for sure, to Melanie deserved it just like Angie did.
And they all decide to take matters in their own hands.
And of course, they don't know the name Melanie yet. That's me throwing that in there.
Right.
But yeah.
So Barbie is flying. Rebecca brings up frying the electronics if he touches the dome, and then his wing proceeds to touch the dome, and nothing happens to the electronics.
Right.
He ends up running out of fuel. He's about to crash, but Jim tells him about the switch. And the switch is is basically to a reserve gas tank.
Right, which nobody knew about except for Jim.
Right.
And this they don't really talk about it, but it shows us this was Jim's plan, right? He wanted to fly because he wanted to be the hero.
Yeah.
Because he knew there was actually more fuel than everybody else knew, which means it was less dangerous than they thought it was.
Right.
So this is why he wanted to be the hero, and he was impressed with Jim that he revealed that instead of just letting Barbie die. Because I feel like it wouldn't have hurt him any to let Barbie die. Nope.
So Barbie lands the plane. Jim and Barbie shake hands. Everybody is applauding him. There's a whole group of people who are applauding him. Do they even know what's going on? Why this is happening? Right. So anyway.
And Jim, again, does something I feel like it's a little out of character for him, because maybe he is really believing in this Messiah complex. Maybe he really does think, like, hey, I'm the one that's going to save the day at this moment.
There are many people in this episode who are acting out of character. I don't really have a problem with Big Jim, because it's kind of been established as to why he's acting like this in the previous episode.
Sure.
It kind of makes sense.
But also, at the same time, even last episode, he was, Junior, like, yeah, we all saw things. It's no big deal.
Right. Yeah, fair enough.
And dismissing his belief in the dome. But we learned that the reason the full extra tank exists is because Jim used to fly the plane outside of Chester's Mill to do the drug runs. Gotcha. And he tells all of this to Barbie.
Right.
Why are you admitting all that?
I don't know. I mean, it's common knowledge at this point, and who's gonna, arrest him?
Yeah, but he's, bringing it up.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, that's what that extra tank was for, so I could go further.
Right. So,
which also tells us that this airplane dude that died was in on the drug shit.
Yeah, more than likely. So, Sam examines the body, Angie's body, and determines that it was, in fact, a man that killed the girl. All right, spoiler alert, but maybe I shouldn't bring it up, but Sam has every reason not to implicate himself here.
I mean, I've already, danced around it. I didn't want to say it, directly, but these are things to remember upon rewatch.
Yeah. I mean, I get that he's trying to help Mystery Girl, because he has some kind of connection to her, but at the same time, he's suggesting things that could get him into trouble.
Okay, so the reason he's here is because he's the only person in town with any medical knowledge as a former EMT. Somehow that means he knows forensics and shit too.
Right.
And Julia apparently does, because she's got a lot of opinions here. So they found tissue under Angie's fingers.
Yes.
Like she scratched her assailant. okay, well, who cares? Because it's not like we have a crime lab to test the DNA.
I mean, we can create super bacteria that's going to kill people in the next episode. So if we could do that, why couldn't we do DNA tests?
So we're told there's tissue under Angie's fingers. And then they find bruises on her. And that's when they're like, oh, those bruises came from a big man hand.
Okay. And you can just tell that.
I mean, I guess, like, if it's, like, hand-shaped and it's obviously bigger than Melanie's. But here's my question. We saw this kill.
Yeah.
We saw Angie die. She was standing at the locker, and then an axe sliced her head open, and she died. When did she get someone's skin under her nails? And when did she get hand-shaped bruises on her thigh?
Yeah, none of that took place.
No, it was an axe swing, and she was dead. There was no struggle.
Right. Yeah. So this is kind of BS in itself. Okay, so Junior, Joe, and Nori go to shoot Mystery Girl, with Joe encouraging Junior to do it. All right. This is just so far out of Joe's character, it's not even funny. I get he's mad about his sister dying, but so they have no evidence to suspect that...
They have a shoe print!
So Joe is going to go ahead and murder someone?
Yeah, so when Junior...
Based on a footprint?
Junior, mind you, hesitates. Yeah. Joe takes the gun from him and is about to do it himself.
Last season, despite everything that Jim was doing, Joe was against killing Big Jim. He would not do it. He would take no part in it. In the previous episode, he was trying to suggest that he wanted to stop Angie from killing Big Jim. This is totally not in Joe's character. Like, I had this thought that Barbie and Joe kind of remain consistent throughout the series, but here Barbie and Joe are very inconsistent to their characters.
I mean, okay, Joe's not thinking straight. He's grieving. He just found out his sister died like an hour ago. So yeah, he's not thinking straight, but he's gonna literally pull the trigger.
I don't see it. And maybe he wouldn't have anyway if Julia didn't come down the stairs. But like, this is just ridiculously out of character. I do not see Joe doing this.
Yeah.
It's even grieving and angry. I do not see him executing this girl based on nothing.
Right.
A shoe print? That's all the evidence they have for this.
And like, maybe like he'd want to talk to her and be like, why did you kill her?
I mean, he is asking her and she's not answering, but she's still going to execute this girl based on this. So, all right.
So like you said, Julia comes in and stops the whole thing.
Right.
By saying, it wasn't Melanie, it was a man. And now everybody believes that.
Oh, okay. We're all done here. All right. So, the funeral, outside the funeral anyway.
Before the funeral, we have a little scene with Julia and Barbie. They're talking about how Julia saved Melanie's life 2 days in a row. And they're talking about Jim and Rebecca, and they disagree on everything.
This is another scene of bad writing.
They're having an argument because they don't agree on the different characters and what they're doing.
Right.
And then he's like, I bet Sam agrees with you.
Yeah, like I said, bad writing. Like, they're just talking in circles, first of all, and none of what they're actually saying actually makes sense. I mean, like, basically this argument doesn't make any sense. And, you know, like, they were trying to create a wedge for Julia and Barbie, but I'm going to point out they already had one. Barbie killed her husband
2 weeks ago.
And
she found out within the last week.
Right. That's never brought up again. Like, that could be the point of contention between the two of them. If you want to create conflict between the two of them, it already exists. You don't need to make up bullshit.
Yeah, but the problem now is they disagree on viewpoints. That's their whole problem.
They disagree on some mild stuff.
Right.
And this is like a major problem to them.
Yeah, she says that it feels like she's losing his trust.
Based on, like, Jim.
Because he doesn't agree with her.
Right.
About Jim and Rebecca and whatever.
Right. Okay, so, outside the funeral, Rebecca has basically become a hero worshiper for Jim. Jim thinks that Joe...
Yeah, Rebecca is all like, yeah, Jim, I'm on your side, and Barbie's like, whatever.
she's actually looking back and saying, like, seeing Barbie taking some, like, applause from the town people, and she's like, I hate that they think he's a hero. Like, what did Barbie do to her?
Right.
Like, why does she have
this... He is the one that,
right.
flew the plane.
I don't understand why she suddenly has this hostility towards Barbie. Why? So Jim thinks that Joe wouldn't want him here, but Rebecca says that Joe's not the only one who lost someone. All right, who is this funeral for?
It's for Angie.
Okay, so it's not for Linda or for any of the other people that they
lost? They mention Linda, but right. I'm pretty sure this is Angie's funeral.
So Joe has every right to say, I don't want Big Jim here.
But in that regard, why are we having a funeral for Angie and not the other 10 people who we've seen die?
I mean, maybe we did and we didn't. I don't know.
So Nori freaks out because Joe's not here. And
right.
She's like, he can't miss his own sister's funeral. And I want to point out they're all dressed in very formal funeral attire. Everybody has a black suit. The women all have very beautiful black dresses. Every female is holding a bouquet of flowers. Why? Where do we get them from?
Yes.
But like, Melanie's in jail. Melanie's not there. Nori and Rebecca and Julia, they're all like carrying flowers.
So wait, they didn't release Melanie? She's still in the prison?
Oh no, wait. I'm getting confused. Maybe she was there. My first thought is she was there, and then I was like, well, no, she's in prison. But you're right. They exonerated her.
Right, yeah.
So is she just going to a funeral now? Like, because we still don't know who the heck she is or what's going on with her.
Right.
But, okay. And then here's they're all wearing these fancy black dresses. Where did they get them? Especially Nori.
Yes.
Whose dress is she wearing? My note was, is it Angie's dress?
That's pretty gruesome.
But then I went, all of Angie's clothes, well, no. I was going to say all of her clothes fell in the house, but her clothes should be in her apartment.
Right.
And are they sleeping in Angie's apartment yet? I think we forget that apartment exists. Where's any of them getting clothes? Like Joe.
Right.
His house fell down, but he's going to continue to wear new clothes every week.
I mean, I guess he could find it in the houses that are abandoned, but yeah.
But I was like, where'd everybody get this fancy formal clothes? This is not what they're going to wear to a funeral in this situation. It's going to be more like they wear whatever the frick they're wearing to go to the funeral.
Right. Yes.
Because you're stuck in a dome and you're fighting for your life every day. But suddenly we have time to like get all done up. Their hair's in updos.
Right, yeah. All right, so Barbie goes to the Sweetbriar Cafe to find Joe searching for Angie's
because he knew exactly where she was going to be.
Yeah.
Where he was.
I mean, okay, so other than that, this is a pretty good scene. So, yeah, they have a great scene together, dealing with Joe's grief. I kind of wish that this was more about what the episode was than anything else. I wish
he's looking for Angie's bracelet because it was not on her body, and she always wore this bracelet, and he wants her to be buried with it.
Right.
So he's thinking she must have left it at the restaurant somewhere. And Barbie's talking about someone he lost and how he didn't say goodbye. Who is he talking about? Are we supposed to know?
Not to my knowledge,
okay.
No. Maybe we'll expand upon it. I doubt it. But, yeah, I mean... So Joe says he's not ready to let her go. Barbie says he knows, and hugs him and says, you're not alone. I'm here for you. Great scene between these two. I kind of wish that we had more of this type of thing in this episode. And it kind of cements that Barbie is kind of like a parental figure to Joe. And in fact, he's pretty much the only one.
And that's where I have to say, like, in the next scene when we see Barbie and Julia and Joe and Nori, it's like they're a little family.
Right.
Forget Carolyn. This girl has a mother, but she's gone.
Yes.
Nori and Julia even both have red hair.
Yes.
Like, it looks like they're a family sitting together in the church.
Yes.
Suddenly, they're all very bonded, these four.
Right. I mean, Joe and Barbie have had that kind of thing going on in the first season.
Sure. But suddenly, it's very, like, real, where they are each other's people.
Right.
And also, I think they're still staying at Jim's. Why don't they go stay with Julia and Barbie?
I mean, have you looked at Julia's house? It's pretty big.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I'm sure she has a couch that the kids can sleep on. Like, yeah. Anyway, so Jim gives a speech. Oh, okay. So after this scene, Jim starts to give a speech.
He's doing a sermon, a eulogy, or whatever. But he's not even talking about Angie. He's talking about, like, the storm and the plague.
Right. He's basically saying, we're being tested and by someone bigger than themselves. And he wants to know... And by the way, Joe and Barbie arrived back at the church at this point. And he's basically saying, what do you guys have baked in? And Andrea's in the crowd saying, it's you, Big Jim.
And meanwhile, Julia and Barbie are just looking horrified that the town thinks this.
Yes.
And meanwhile, while he's giving the speech, we get to watch a scene of Junior. He's not at Angie's funeral. He skipped it. He's getting drunk again. Mm-hmm. He's sitting on this bench that we're led to believe this is where he goes when he drinks.
Yeah.
And he finds Angie's bracelet under the bench.
So after that, Rebecca... tells Jim that Angie's death was bittersweet. Jim is very confused by this. She says that she went too early, but she could be spared what's coming. And he's basically like, I took an inventory of our supplies. We have plenty of them. And she says that he took the inventory of the wrong thing. That the problem is the people, and that they have limited resources. All right, so I'm all for exploring that. In fact, I said that that's something that should have been explored last season. But the way they handle it from here on is just ridiculous.
So Rebecca, the science teacher, who's now running the town, is like, we got too many people here.
Yeah.
Some of them gotta die.
and of course, that's going to be a subject of next episode. But yeah, man, this woman is completely psychotic. But so Sam hears a knock at the door and is late at night. Junior comes in. He's clearly drunk and he's wet from the rain. It's raining? I guess so.
Yeah.
But Junior says he thinks he's the one that killed Angie, and that is where the episode ends.
Because he found her bracelet.
Yes. I mean, of all the conclusions to jump to, I think that sort of makes sense. But yeah, this is a ridiculous episode. The writing is bad. There's just a lot of things about it that don't make any sense. There's some good ideas here, and some things that we absolutely should be exploring. They're just done in a haphazard way that makes no sense.
Yeah. And the shoe print.
Yes.
Which all became null anyways, because she admitted she was there.
Right, exactly. It's not like she was hiding that fact.
Right.
She told Julia that she was there.
And that was like the first person she saw after Joe.
Right.
Between sleeping all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, being hatched from an egg makes you sleep a lot.
Right.
Okay, so we only had one new uncredited listing this week, and this is Mary Austin. She was in 3 episodes of Good Behavior, 3 episodes of 6. And as far as our returning uncredited people, we had William Fresca, Joe Montani, James Noss, David Pasqua, and Carlo St. James.
All right.
Much less than most episodes list, which is funny because there were a lot of people in this episode.
Right, especially at the church at the funeral.
Yeah, so...
I guess they were uncredited. And...
Well, that's the thing is these are all uncredited listings, and they got to put them in themselves, or their agents put them in, or whatever. It's not the show putting them in, but it feels very inconsistent.
Yeah.
And that's all I got for casting.
Anything else to say before concluding?
Butterflies are bad.
Yes.
Butterflies. And I guess we fixed the butterflies? Like, they're gone now? Is that where we're landed?
I don't think they were presented as a threat, but...
I mean, the caterpillars.
Oh, yeah,
which are the butterflies.
Right, yeah.
So, okay, so the butterflies died, and the caterpillars were killed. So we're done with butterflies.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah, makes
Except,
sense.
Monarch is supposed to be a big thing.
Right.
So...
Maybe that's no longer the case because they killed the butterflies. And now she's not
And
the
now
monarch.
the dome's mad.
Yeah, probably.
Because we killed the butterflies because they were speaking for the dome or something.
Right. I think we wrote a better show than the one that's actually there. But, yeah. All right. We'd like to hear from you. What you think of this podcast? What you think of this episode? Stacie can be reached at?
I can be reached on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at TVN Coupon Talk.
If you like this video and want to support the channel, the number of ways to do so, you can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join the Core Productions Facebook page. You can find me on Blue Sky. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a copy. You can join the Core Productions membership for 99 cents a month. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video as well as subscribe to the channel. This is Dave and Stacie from Core Productions, signing off.